What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. So the Lakers have been stuck in the mud ever since the in-season tournament, but they brought it in a big way last night against the Clippers. It was interesting. It was kind of one of those games where like one of two things was going to happen. The Lakers were either going to let go of the rope in this pursuit they seem to be in to get their coach fired and just get obliterated by a red-hot Clippers team, and that would be all there is, or they were going to show up and play. And like, I know the vast majority, I shouldn't say the vast majority, a good chunk of the people who listen to this show don't think the Lakers are good and think that I'm, allowing my bias to seep in my positive, interpretation of that team in terms of their big picture potential. And I'm not here to tell you guys are wrong. I think it's a debatable thing. It's been such a weird Lakers season that if you want to call them great, there's things you can point to, right? Like won the in-season tournament, beat the shit out of the Thunder in Oklahoma City, beat the Clippers twice. You can point to key wins and kind of identify them as to build your case for the Lakers are good. And then God knows there's a ton of evidence that the Lakers are bad. That said, I'm a big believer that when this team gives a shit, they're at the very least in that second tier of contenders. They're not as good as Boston or Denver, but when they try hard and they're locked into the details on both ends of the floor, I think they're every bit as good as any other team in the league. And I think you saw it in a big way against the Clippers last night. The Clippers are red hot right now on offense. They have been the second best offense in the league over the course of their last 15 games, and the Lakers shut them down, held them to a 103 offensive rating last night. Yet another example of what the Laker defensive ceiling is capable of. I wanted to talk about some specific performances on the Laker defense. One of the things that I talk about a lot on this show is the difference between I shouldn't say the difference, but I hate it. It's a pet peeve of mine when people constantly say shot variance, like, oh, these guys just missed, or oh, these guys just made shots. It, to me, is like a kind of a loser mentality from the standpoint of like controlling your own destiny. I do think that shot variance is a thing in basketball. I just think it's too commonly used as a crutch. And more often than not, I think in a small sample, like if your offense generates 3 good looks at the end of a game and they just happen to miss, that's one thing. But any sort of large sample size, like if you're the Lakers fans keep going, man, I can't believe this guy keeps making shots. I can't believe these guys keep coming into our building and shooting well. And it's like, okay, either you're just really unlucky or you're playing bad defense. Guys are making shots. And to me, it's better to like, even if we just look at what's better mentally as an approach, I would argue focusing on process is the only way you're actually going to turn your outcome around anyway. But I actually, even above and beyond that, believe process is what determines those sorts of things. I think that the defensive process of a team is what leads to shot result. And I wanted to give an example because last night, LeBron James was on Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard finished 6 for 17 with more turnovers than assists. This is a Kawhi Leonard who shot 60% from the field over his previous 14 games. Only once in that span was he held under 50%, and he was like 47% from the field. This is Kawhi, who has been laser efficient all season long. One of the things that Kawhi did last night, the Clippers run a lot of sets where they'll have like James Harden operating with the ball on like the right wing, and he's kind of orchestrating things. And they'll have Zubac set like a wide pin down for Kawhi Leonard so that he's coming around with a curl to basically give him an opportunity to attack with an advantage. Just smart offensive process, right? From the jump, LeBron was top blocking that. So Anthony Davis is sitting back in the paint so that if Kawhi cuts back door, he's not cutting into a place where he can easily finish. And LeBron was literally, what does top blocking mean? It means he's literally positioning himself between the offensive player and the screen. So if you're the offensive player and I'm looking to set a screen for you, you're looking to brush off of my left shoulder here, LeBron was sitting right in between and facing Kawhi and forcing him to take weird routes to try to get the basketball. So as a result, now instead of catching the ball in his usual spots, he's catching it in different spots. Instead of catching the ball with the defender in trail position, he's often catching it in a different position on the floor. LeBron in general was applying a lot of physical ball pressure. And then in addition to that, LeBron's one of the few guys in the league. Like, there are certain types of matchups that, like, even in LeBron's old age, he's a perfect matchup for. So for instance, like Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson is a bully ball player that can be a little predictable with his driving angles. And so LeBron, a really smart player who happens to be big and strong enough to hold up under Zion's bully ball, can beat him to spots, force him to miss shots, cause problems, right? Kawhi Leonard is a guy that uses his strength to get to spots. And LeBron's just every bit as strong, if not stronger than him. And so it's harder for him to get to those spots. And that's just one example, but I've pointed out these types of examples all over the place. And we have another one later in the show. We're going to talk about Damian Lillard and his struggles with the Bucks and the job that Houston did, like from the jump, with ball pressure, switching with physicality, stunting at the basketball, finding ways to make Damian Lillard uncomfortable. And this LeBron just top blocking and applying physical ball pressure went a long way. And you know what? Like, Kawhi missed a corner three late in the game against the Lakers. And I saw a lot of Clippers fans like, oh, I can't believe you missed that shot. And you're right. Like, chances are, like if Kawhi gets a wide open corner three, it's got a good percentage chance of going in. But again, if you ask yourself, what is the difference between a 6 for 17 shooting night and a 13 for 17 shooting night? If you think it's just luck, I'm going to disagree with you. I think that process is what leads to it, so that when Kawhi catches that ball in the corner, he's having a tough night. And so he's not feeling as confident and comfortable as he's going up into that shot. I think those things are connected and related. That's a consistent theme that you hear from me on this show. And I feel the same way with the Lakers when it pertains to defense. Oh, I can't believe Dante Exum keeps making shots. Oh, how is it that Marcus Smart, I saw Lakers fans like, oh, Marcus Smart was shooting 26% from three and then he makes 8 threes. You were giving him wide open shots. And this is the same Marcus Smart that's made 2 threes a game for the majority of his career and loves to take them. So what that usually means for a guy that like takes 5-6 threes a game and shoots like in the 33-34% range for his career, what that means is like he takes a ton of them, and sometimes he goes 1 for 6 and sometimes he goes 4 for 6. And generally speaking, the 4 for 6 nights are going to be on the nights when he has all damn day and he feels great about his shot. And so it goes both ways as it pertains to the Lakers, but it's a consistent theme you'll see from me on this show. I'm a big believer in process when it comes to shot results. And I think the Lakers defended the Clippers into having a rough shooting night, not vice versa. That's a consistent theme you'll see for me on the show. A couple other things. I thought Cam Reddish, Taurean Prince, and Jared Vanderbilt all did a great job on the Clipper wings. The Lakers did a lot of switching too, where like if there was some sort of situation where a guy got caught out of position, or if LeBron was top blocking and then Kawhi cut backdoor, he might signal for a switch and then go and grab Paul George. They're switching all over the floor. One of the things that kind of makes the Clippers a good matchup for the Lakers is the Clippers are not a heavy slashing team. They're a pull-up jump shooting team. And the Lakers are not an overly fast team, but they are a long team. And so they can contest pull-up jumpers well. And I think that's a big part of why they can cause like a big pull-up jump shooting team like the Clippers to have some offensive problems. I thought Anthony Davis was awesome in this game too, active with his hands. He had 3 steals. They got some key contributions on offense from Christian Wood and D'Angelo Russell. Christian Wood was just a monster at the end of this game, both on the glass. He knocked down some big threes. The tip dunk he had at the beginning of the fourth quarter was nasty. D'Angelo Russell, huge spot up shooting. It took one of those textbook pull-up transition threes that he likes to take. It was just a great all-around performance from the Lakers as they came around. And then crunch time, just a steady diet of Anthony Davis in the post and LeBron James in pick and roll. This is a continuing theme we've seen from the Lakers this year. Whenever they're playing against a team that has to run drop coverage at the end of games because they don't have a big that they feel comfortable switching with, saw this with the Suns, saw it again with the Clippers last night, it's going to be LeBron AD pick and roll. LeBron James ices the game in the final minute, 3-point game. Has Zubac in drop coverage, snakes the pick and roll, gets back to the left, and takes his little patented little right shoulder fade as he's kind of drifting towards the baseline. He took a similar shot earlier in the game and made it, so it's one that he was comfortable with, and that basically iced the game. But I thought AD hit a couple of big hook shots late, and that's a huge piece too. And it's a big part of why I've maintained confidence with the Lakers despite some of their struggles this year. Like Anthony Davis, 10 of his 20 points last night were on over-the-top shots, hook shots, and jump shots. He was hitting that pick and pop jumper at the elbow confidently. Like AD looks great. LeBron looks great. They both look better than they did last year. Yeah, there's shit on the margins that they have to work out. And yeah, they have effort and focus and consistency issues. But LeBron and AD being this good is super encouraging. And once again, down the stretch, which has been another consistent theme for the Lakers, 5 minutes of clutch time, meaning within 5 points with less than 5 minutes left. 5 minutes of clutch time against the Clippers last night. Lakers had a 120 offensive rating and a 100 defensive rating. That's excellent on both ends of the floor. And they got to win. So once again, because of how well LeBron James and Anthony Davis are playing in that slow down half-court environment at the end of the game, they can thrive when they need to. And that is encouraging. Now, big picture with the Lakers, because they've been sucking horribly since the in-season tournament, and I don't want to gloss over that as we talk about last night's win. I tweeted after the loss to the Grizzlies. Those of you guys who follow me on Twitter remember this. I said, I thought it was the funniest Laker game of the season because it was an unserious effort. There was game plan stuff like we talked about with Marcus Smart. They were ducking under picks and giving him catch and shoot pull up threes. They were helping way off of him off the ball and giving him wide open catch and shoot threes. In general, they were doing the same thing with Jaren Jackson as well. Like the game plan was bad, but there was also execution stuff. Like LeBron and Austin in particular were getting lost off the ball a lot in the fourth quarter on guys they shouldn't have lost. And just in general, it looked like an unserious game. You had like Cam Reddish dribbling into traffic, trying to do stuff. LeBron hitting the corner of the backboard and then getting a rebound and throwing the pass out of bounds. Like they just looked unserious. And like, I kind of saw this coming. Those of you guys who remember the Mavs game after the in-season tournament, when they lost that game, I said to Lakers fans, I said, prepare yourself for a really frustrating season because they already were one of the worst effort and focus teams before the in-season tournament. And then winning the in-season tournament gave that team like a sense of positive reinforcement that almost made that whole effort and energy thing even worse. And since the in-season tournament, they've been one of the worst teams in the league. And here's the thing, say what you want about the Lakers. And if you don't believe they're a contender, I'm not going to say you're wrong. But they're not the worst team in the league either, okay? So like clearly they were playing some trash basketball or trashketball or whatever you want to call it. They were playing bad basketball. And like I expect that to continue for the record. Because I thought last week was the pinnacle between the Grizzlies game and the loss to the Heat, which was one of their ugliest games of the season. To me, they look like a team that wants to get their coach fired. I've been hearing all kinds of stuff behind the scenes about just how bad the rift is in the locker room between the players and the coach. I saw a report 2 days ago that multiple player agents have been contacting Rob Pelinka with frustration with their players' minutes. I've heard that, we talked with Jovan Buha about some of the internal frustrations with Darvin Ham that came out in the Athletics report. Shams Charania has addressed that as well. So, like, I think that team's trying to get their coach fired. But like every once in a while, kind of like the OKC game a couple weeks ago and then that Clippers game last night, every once in a while the guys are like, let's go out and let's see what we can do in this game against a real opponent. I think specifically they're struggling with opponents that they don't particularly respect in terms of a postseason threat, right? And because that's the case, like, I don't think this Clippers game is any sort of like sign that they're about to come out the other side. I think the Lakers are going to continue down this path of really frustrating, ugly, embarrassing losses and occasional super impressive wins for the rest of the month. That's what I expect in January. Like when we get past February, when we get past February, if they do fire Darvin Ham, they'll have a new coach and the players in the locker room are the players in the locker room. And I expect the Lakers to lock in and play a more serious brand of basketball the rest of the year. If they get through the deadline and they don't fire Darvin Ham, I expect LeBron and AD to sit down and be like, hey man, Darvin's our coach this year. We can deal with this in the summer. We got to just lock in and get this done. And I expect the Lakers to lock in and look more serious after the deadline. But I thoroughly expect a roller coaster of inconsistent effort and focus and success for the Lakers for the next 4 weeks. That's what I expect. I don't think we'll see anything different than that. I mean, this is just, I've seen this with LeBron teams a lot. LeBron gets kind of pouty and passive aggressive and doesn't play well. I've said this before on the show. I kind of look at him as a little bit of a fair weather leader. He's not a guy that handles bad basketball well. And we've seen stretches like this. Like before last night, in LeBron's previous 6 games, 23 points per game, 45% from the field. Last night, he was by far the best player on the floor with Kawhi Leonard, who's been playing like an MVP, and Anthony Davis, who's been playing incredible lately. Like LeBron was the best player on the floor. What was before those 6 games? 40 points for LeBron in OKC. Like, that's what we're getting from LeBron. Like, he's just getting through the season at this point. I've seen this a bunch of times. I remember in 2018, before the deadline, there was a long extended stretch before the Minnesota game. It was like, I want to say it was like 17 games, I think, where he's at 22 points per game on 47% shooting. Does that sound like the same LeBron that murdered everybody in that playoff run? Was 22 points on 47% from the field before the deadline. And then if you remember that Minnesota game, the Minnesota game where he hit the game winner over Jimmy Butler, the one-leg fadeaway. Rest of the season, LeBron, 30 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists on 54% from the field and 39% from three. Now, LeBron's not as good now as he was then, to be clear. But this idea of like a LeBron team that definitely has championship aspirations, but clearly needs some change before the deadline, and like them just floundering in January, super common ever since LeBron left Miami. It's happened like on like 4 different seasons, right? Like it's not exactly unheard of. Now, I've seen better leadership from LeBron in these moments in the past. I thought last year pre-deadline, LeBron was a lot more locked in. I think he was more invested in trying to carry them there, but they were in a much more precarious position in the standings, if you remember correctly. That might have been the primary driving force there. But I do think it's getting kind of serious, and that's the one thing that's going to be tricky for the Lakers is we are 4 weeks from the deadline. And if they're going to play unserious basketball until then, they could drop 3-4 games below 500 and then be in a situation where they're struggling post-deadline. So I'm not sure it's the best strategy, and it's kind of a catch-22 for the Lakers because if LeBron and AD want to pout their way to Darvin Ham getting fired, I don't think that necessarily is a smart move for the standings. So, but if they lock in and play really well, like Darvin's not going to get fired. So it gets really, really tricky in terms of the kind of catch-22 they have there. But yeah, like I'll be clear, like I don't think we're going to learn much about the Lakers and what they really can do in terms of competition against the best teams in the league until we get past the deadline and we know for sure if Darvin Ham's the coach. And once that's solidified, then everybody in the locker room has no real choice but to focus on the ultimate goal, and I think they'll get more serious there. But there is no team that has a larger gap between their day-to-day effort and like floor versus their ceiling than the Lakers. And that's why you can make the case that they're a championship contender, and you can make the case that they suck and they're going to miss the playoffs. And neither side's really wrong at this point. It's more about, whether or not you believe in what they can do in the postseason.